Fish and Filtered, episode 58. We're back. It's been a minute. We had Isaac on with Kyle Seeloff, and we have a very special guest. Very excited to have Billy Gil on. Isaac, what's up? It's been a minute, but glad to be back at it.
Yeah, very excited to have Mr. Billy Gil from the Dan Le Batard Show on. Obviously, it's not been going great for the Miami Marlins, but a lot of things going on in the South Florida sports market, so I'm excited to pick his brain on a few things.
Billy, what's up?
It's early. It's early. It's 162. We're good. Don't worry. There's plenty of time to turn it around, Isaac.
How's everything been, Billy? We had you on, I want to say, pretty early on when we started this podcast, and we're getting you back on for the second time.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me again. I've missed you guys.
You've been watching the Marlins, I think, for this season. Just take us through what your thoughts have been. I know it's been a whirlwind of a season. They just took 2 out of 3 against the Detroit Tigers, so that's a good way to end to the weekend.
Series win.
They got on the Mets.
They almost won 4 in a row had they not had a regular kind of appearance by the bullpen, but that's fine. We're trending upwards, undefeated in the last 2. So things are going well for the Marlins, are they not? I feel like the vibe is down right now. I feel like you guys are not super high on the Marlins and maybe making a second playoff appearance in 2 seasons. Like, you don't think this is going to happen.
Well, the president of baseball operations, following the trade of their established all-star, said it himself. We are unlikely to make the postseason this year. The Marlins are currently 19 games under 500, 18 games behind the Philadelphia Phillies. You're right, Billy. There's a lot of games left, but
yeah,
I would agree with Mr. Bendix that it is unlikely, unfortunately. And I do want to hear from you. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on right now. The Panthers making a playoff run. The Heat recently got eliminated. But watching it from afar, you see that trade go down. You know the direction this team is going in. It seems like again and again. But what is your thought on this happening just a year after the Marlins made the postseason?
It was definitely disappointing. I mean, you heard rumblings that maybe the Padres were interested in getting Luzardo and Arraez together in a deal, and then Luzardo got hurt, and you thought, okay, well, maybe this is just rumors, just speculation. Maybe they're hoping that this is going to be a team that's going to want to rebuild, and they could just get players from the Marlins. And then it didn't really happen. It was weird, I thought, headed into this season, in the offseason after they make the playoffs, that there weren't many key additions. And you wondered, why aren't you trying to improve on a team that surprised many that they made the playoffs? And I think that you thought, okay, they're a nice team. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. Then when they did, you thought, okay, maybe they're heading in the right direction. We can add to this. But no significant upgrades were made there. And now I think we're seeing why. I don't want to say necessarily that they were hoping that the team got off to a bad start, but I think the team getting off to a bad start definitely accelerated any rebuild plans that they had, which is disappointing because you have a guy who won his second straight batting title, first batting title, obviously, as a member of the Marlins, and you've seen what he's been able to do in San Diego so far. It's almost like he got off to a slow start here and was, he's getting hot and now has had a resurgence of sorts and kind of is back to batting champion form. And I think it's just disappointing because we've gone through this time and time again with the Marlins, and you always hope that it's different. And I mean, one of my concerns is they're going to be sellers now, right? What's the point of keeping a lot of these guys? But to what extent? Like, is there going to be someone on this team that they keep to be a cornerstone? And then you look at, their young pitching. Are they going to trade the pitching so that they can then upgrade for the future? You have people like Sandy who have, favorable deals, but also Sandy's missing this entire season, obviously, because of his Tommy John surgery. And you don't know, you assume he's going to come back and be close to the form that he was at last year or 2 years ago when he won the Cy Young. But you're also, if you're starting a rebuild, I guess, and it sounds bad, but what's the point of keeping him? Because by the time they turn this thing around, what is he going to be? And is it worth even keeping him? But then you trade a batting champion, you potentially could trade a Cy Young winner. How do you keep people interested in going to these games? So it's tough. I mean, we've been here before. You were hoping that wasn't going to happen again, especially right after a postseason run. But here we are.
Yeah, let me ask you, obviously this has happened many times in your lifetime, in my lifetime, 2018, 2019, 2013. Did you continue to go to these games? Did you bring your, because hey, they're trying to bring you and families to the ballpark regardless that they don't know who's playing second base. Did you continue to go to these ball games?
So that's the hard part, right? Because like, what can I actually do? I mean, I could not go to the games, right? But I love baseball, and this is the baseball team in my hometown. So this is how you kind of can continue to have this stuff. If you want to go to the game yourself, or I have a young family, take my family to see baseball games, like we're gonna go. And I have a 3-year-old. She doesn't know the difference. She wants to go and
Exactly.
she wants to see, the Rooster race, and she wants to see Billy the Marlin, and she wants to have fun. So
Yeah.
I mean, we'll still go. It's just, it's hard to, it's a hard ask to continue to ask fans to come to the game and, be patient with us, particularly when we went through this reset when there was a new ownership group. And now Peter Bendix comes in and he's, trying to put his imprint on this team and rebuild the organization and the farm system and basically start from scratch yet again. But it's hard to, I think, ask the fans, and he's new to this situation, obviously, but we've heard it so many times, like, just trust us, we'll turn this around. And you can ask for the benefit of the doubt, but it's hard to keep giving it, even though it's different people doing it. It's just kind of a process that happens over and over again.
Right. So you personally, sorry, Kevin. So you don't shun them the way maybe Mike Ryan does, because he will never go back to another game. I don't think, from what I hear.
He's gone. He's been to the Clevelander, and then I don't remember what it was changed its name to, but he's been to like that area. I mean, look, it's a fun thing, but you're kind of going knowing I'm going to take in an event, but probably going to leave disappointed today. So,
Right.
but if they win, free Whopper Juniors the next day. So that's a plus. Have you guys gotten to Whopper Juniors yet?
No.
Yeah.
No? Why?
Yeah.
We were gonna ask you this as well. I'm not a big Burger King guy.
Of course, you're above
I don't
everything.
really live close to one. I live close to a Wendy's, a McDonald's, a Chipotle. Mainly the Chipotle. I don't really go to a drive-through Burger King too often.
Let your hair down, Isaac. Have a Whopper Junior from time to time. They're free. It costs you nothing.
Well, it cost me gas to get there.
I guess. Just you don't drive anywhere where you pass a Burger King. That seems impossible to me.
When they win the series opener with Luzardo on the mound on Friday, I will go on Saturday and get a freaking Whopper Junior for free, Billy.
I appreciate that. I don't know why I appreciate that. I don't work for Burger King or really have any vested interest in this, but
Have you had the Whopper Junior, Billy?
Of course. Yes,
There
look
you
at
go.
me. Of course I've had a Whopper Junior. Yes. Almost every time I will say, you know what? I like free things, okay? So I will go and have a Whopper Junior even if I've already eaten, because I like the idea of getting one over on someone. Not that I am, but I go and I order my, Whopper Junior. The thing about the Whopper Junior is this. It's not super filling on its own, right?
It's not.
So then you kind of have to get more things from Burger King, or say, you know what? This is just going to be a little Whopper Junior snack. And I, unlike Isaac, pass many a Burger King on my daily routine, so it's not that much of an inconvenience for me.
But anyway, to get away from some food options for now, we can get back to that. I'm curious because you mentioned which one of these guys are they going to keep? You, Sandy, I agree with you. I would be very surprised if he finishes out his contract as a member of the Marlins. I think if you had to choose one guy that they should hold on to through this process, through this build, whatever you want to call it, one offensive player and one pitcher, who would you like to see live through this rebuild?
I don't even know, because I think people would say they want Jazz, right? But is Jazz going to sit around during a rebuild and be content with that and finish?
Who cares? He has no who cares? He has no choice.
I know, but I'm saying, who cares? But Christian Yelich did not want to, and he kind of had a fit, and then they traded him as a result of that. So I'm not saying Jazz would do something like that, but it's hard to find people who, I mean, younger, I guess, is better, right? Because the younger guys maybe are happy that they've made it to the majors and they know that they have their career ahead of them and may buy in. But we also don't know who the manager is going to be, right? Because you saw, obviously, the reports that Skip asked for them to kind of, and I guess as a mutual decision, void the option at the end of this year. So is Skip going to want to stick around for a rebuild? Is he going to want to go to a place like, I don't know, St. Louis if things aren't going well there and manage the Cardinals? Like, there's just a lot of factors here that need to kind of play out. And it does take, certain type of individuals to want to stick around for a rebuild. So I guess you want people that are going to be there that are willing to be part of it, that aren't going to be malcontents. But you also understand if they don't want to be. Yeah.
Right.
I think the ideal guy would be Yuri. He's plenty of years left. Offensively, though, it's definitely an interesting question because, like a Brian De La Cruz, for example, that's a guy who you could trade. Teams would give you something back, but at the same time, are you really going to keep him? Teams view him as a fourth outfielder. And then, it really depends who you get back in these trades because the farm system right now is not the greatest. It's improving.
Well,
but
the crazy thing is offensively, you would have said Arraez, and he said he wanted to be here. So if you would have locked him up to a deal in the offseason, you could say, okay, we'll keep Arraez, we'll keep Yuri, and we'll build around the two of them. But obviously, he's also the most valuable piece of your team and the one that you're going to get the most back for. And time will tell on that. But, you saw mixed reviews on what kind of haul that was. You had some people saying, like, wow, this is a really good deal. And then other people saying, well, the second best asset in there is a fourth outfielder at best, which is not what you want for a batting champion when you're rebuilding a team.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I think, Isaac and I said it a couple times. If they were going to trade Arraez, they should have done it at the winter meetings, but that's long gone at this point.
The timing seems so odd to me. And again, maybe they have a larger plan and maybe this was the best deal that was out there, but you would think either trade him in the offseason or you wait until a team's desperate at the deadline and hope that you get a better deal from a team that's trying to make the playoffs. But when you trade him on May 3rd or whatever day it was, it's kind of like we couldn't have waited to see if there was a better deal out there. Like, are you afraid he's going to get hurt? Do you think he's going to fall off and he's peaked and you're trying to sell high on him? Like, the timing on that one just seemed really odd. And I know that it's, obviously his first time in the position, but I thought that saying the thing that everybody knows, but saying out loud when you're the president of baseball operations, it's unlikely we're going to make the playoffs, just felt weird to tell a fan base a month in, hey, we're punting on this season. It's done.
Yeah.
But come out because we're giving away, windbreakers.
Right.
Ticket package.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of all those things, Billy. I think they didn't quite value Arraez maybe as much as some of us did. I think they were worried that maybe something would happen in the interim between now and the trade deadline. And the way he quoted it, he said this was an offer that we could not walk past. And to me, when you're also paying the Padres $8 million for this man to play against you for the rest of the year, and that was the haul you get, that was the offer that you could not walk past, it makes it seem like that was the only team he called. Because really, like you said, the second best asset, he could be a starter. You see how he develops. Another guy at first base DH type, and another one who people just do not like, the Korean pitcher. And then Dylan Head she's extremely high risk, high reward. So for me, I'm not in that room. I'm not making these decisions for a reason, but you'd want to get a little bit more of a higher floor guy in return than the four guys that they got.
And
well, especially with the history
of
trades that, you saw, last week going around social media, just kind of checking in on the Yelich trade and where everybody is there. Like, with a history of misses, and it's not them, but a history of recent misses when you trade your biggest stars, you have a skeptical fan base that wonders if it's going to happen again.
Yeah, and our founder, Mr. Eli Sussman, asked Bendix that verbatim. You see all these trades happen, and almost none of them turn out well or favorable for the selling team. So, like, what trades you look at and say, hey, they'll work like that? And he went out and said, well, we have a lot of analysts that say that we will accrue a lot of value from these four guys. And so
it's interesting because then you see the other day they had 3 spots for an analytics department. So
yeah, they were hiring. They had a bunch of help wanted signs in their analytical department. And so that was a little bit funny. But something I wanted to get another take from you, Billy, on is you said you went to opening day. I wanted to hear your thoughts on the ballpark experience at loanDepot Park in 2024.
Well, I mean, I've only been to opening day. I was going to go a couple other times, but I haven't made it back. It was fine. I mean, it wasn't that much different than any other season.
Right.
Opening day is a hard day to judge loanDepot Park just because it's usually the most crowded day, right? And
Right.
somehow it always overwhelms concessions and stuff like that, where
Absolutely.
like there's really long lines and it seems like, okay, we're just kind of getting back from an off season here. It's the first game. So I try to have a little more patience on opening day. Also, I don't know how you guys are. How are you guys at games? Are you constantly getting up and like if you're watching as a fan, not like as a member of the media? If you're a fan, are you getting up and going to concessions a lot? Like what do you guys do?
Very, very rarely. I'm usually sitting there. I'll stand up in front of my seat. I rarely go up and down.
It's kind of like Isaac. Maybe every once in a while I'll go. Maybe once a time I'll go take a lap or something around the ballpark to check it out. But if no, I'm sitting down.
So I go on opening day, or the past couple of years we've gone like with a big family group, like aunts and uncles go
Right.
with my cousins. They have kids, like it's a big like family thing, right? Which is great, but also I have like the most fidgety family that can't sit still apparently, because I'll have people that get up 3 or 4 times and I'm like, can you guys just sit down and watch this game? And then if we're like in the middle of the aisle or the end of the aisle, then whoever else is in the aisle will come and they'll go across. And like, I don't understand. And opening day, it happens a lot, right? Because you have people who are there who don't really care about the game. They're
Right.
just going for the spectacle of it and they won't sit still. They're constantly getting up. I feel like you should have like maybe like a 2-trip maximum. And like after that, unless you have like a medical condition or you have like a note from your doctor that says you have to go to the bathroom a lot or something, like just sit down, like
I
get
agree.
everything. Like the games now are so fast. They're done in like 2.5 hours. Like, why
Yeah.
can't you sit still for 2 hours? Like what's going on? So I will like sit there the entire time. And I'm like, I just don't want to move. I don't want to go to concessions. I don't want to deal with all the people that are there. So I just kind of stay put. I'll get whatever I need to get like right at the beginning. Actually, that's not true. I benefit from all the people going out while I'm railing against them because I'll ask them to get me things. But still, the point remains there should be like a 2 exit maximum at these games because the constant up and down just drives me crazy.
I agree. Almost every half inning, there are the same people just going up and down, blocking people coming back into the row. It is terrible. And it depends who I'm there with. If I'm there with my dad, we'll sit the whole time. But if I'm there with a girl or something, we have to walk around. I got to show her the museum. So it depends on
You have
who
to show her the museum.
Even though
You're taking girls to the games who are longing to see the Marlins Museum. I doubt that very much.
Yeah.
The one where the TVs are like almost all off now too.
Yeah, you take him to the Budweiser bar. It's a beautiful view from there. You see the Miami skyline. You take him down to the recess lounge where the Clevelander used to be, and it's actually not a bad place to go on a date. But as long as they
So,
don't
what's your move? What do you show at the museum? What's like the most impressive thing? Like, let me show you this piece of Marlins history in the Marlins Museum.
Well, since you asked, actually, there's a whole section of the first game ever at Marlins Park in 2012. I say, hey, I was there.
Wow.
There's another one that I sometimes flex. I forget what it is. I have to see the museum, but not a lot there for me.
I got to be honest with you. If you're going on all of these dates and doing the same thing over and over again, it seems like it's not going very very Like if you're constantly needing to bring like new people on this date, I would try something differently.
It's continuity. It's just, a lot of times the same girl. Don't worry.
Okay.
But
well, has she forgotten? Is she like? I mean, I don't want to.
I don't
amnesia or something.
It's
like 51st dates. So you're taking Drew Barrymore every day to the same date.
No, I flex different things around there.
Okay, I have a question for you. How was your experience at loanDepot Park? Because I feel like you asked me because you wanted to tell us what your experience was.
Okay, well, I just have an issue. Obviously, it's Major League Baseball in my backyard. I cannot be too hard. It is Major League Baseball, despite their record. But one big thing that I have a problem with, and maybe you agree, you're not. Boy. I don't think you don't have Latin blood, but the way the
I do.
Okay. Well, then
I don't have Latin blood.
Well,
My name's Guillermo.
I didn't know. Well, I do. And so the blatant pandering that they do towards Hispanics in that ballpark, everything is in Spanish. Every single thing, the music, everything is in Spanish. It's gone way out of hand. I've had colleagues and myself. I've spoken to President of Business Operations, Caroline O'Connor, about this. They're just trying to get people in the ballpark. I get we're in Little Havana, but just because we are in Miami, it does not mean that every single person in that ballpark speaks Spanish. it is actually quite offensive in my opinion. And that was one thing that I had an issue with on opening day. I'll tell you the rest after, but I don't know if you agree with that.
I will say that I have thought in the past that it is a bit heavy-handed.
Thank you.
Where I agree. I don't know that I'm going to as far as offended, but I have thought sometimes it felt like we're watching Dora the Explorer, where it's like, here's something in English and then translated directly to Spanish, and it's like it's not super necessary. Like I get what they're going for. I have felt similar thoughts on the pandering, maybe not as strongly as you have, though.
Right. It's just the
I agree with
hashtag.
Billy.
The hashtag is in Spanish. Cafecito in the fifth inning. What? Because we're in Miami, everyone's Cuban. Like, are you kidding me?
That's not okay. That's not that
it's
bad,
ridiculous.
bro.
It is
No,
ridiculous.
the cafecito is not ridiculous.
It is like
I've wanted them to come to my row to give me coffee, if I'm going to be honest with you.
right.
Yeah, man.
And I come from both my parents are immigrants, and I understand that, and I speak perfect Spanish. I understand, and even I get, you know what? Like, hey, it's everything is in the Miami Marlins are tweeting in Spanish. It's ridiculous. Look at this. Oh my! I just get very offended.
El Chacal, what are you gonna
That was
do?
for Cuban Heritage Day. I agree more on Billy, where it's a little heavy sometimes, but you also have to take advantage of where you are, which is Miami, and other ballparks do this too. It's not just the Marlins. They take their city as a strength.
At MPT College Consulting, they pride themselves on helping clients navigate the college application process. This includes preparation for standardized testing, guidance through high school, assistance with essays and applications, and choosing the right college. Their work is always geared towards the specific needs of the individual client as they strive to make this process as stress-free for the family as possible. Visit them today at mptcollegeconsulting.com to learn more about their services and schedule a free consultation.
Right. Which ballparks have you been to, Billy?
Which have I been to?
Yeah.
I went to the ballpark in Baltimore. I've been to the Braves ballpark. I've been to, I think it's still Comerica in Detroit. I went to the Trop, but I went to the Trop for a football game. I went to Shea Stadium, but not Citi Fields.
Nice.
I went to Wrigley, but I went to Wrigley on like a tour because it was in the winter. So not a baseball game. Where else have I been?
Which football?
Not a ton. I went to FIU had a bowl game. The Gasparilla Bowl, I think. Or was it? I don't remember what it was. They got at the Trop. Yeah, it wasn't great. Wasn't the best.
It was against Temple, I think.
It wasn't the best. Hey, that's me at Wrigley Field. How did you find that?
Whoa.
Was it that cold?
Well, I mean, look, winter I've never been to Chicago. I've been told by everyone the best time to go to Chicago is the summer. I've never been to Chicago in the summer. I've been to Chicago twice in the winter, and it was miserable. The first time that I went with the wind chill was like -30, and the people, the Uber drivers and stuff that were there were like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "My wife said she wanted to see snow. I didn't know it was this miserable." So we were there for like a couple of days. And then I said, I will never come back to Chicago in the winter. It's dreadful. It is so cold. The lake that's there, you see like just chunks of ice. It looks like icebergs, like Titanic was there. Just chunks of ice floating in the water. It's horrible. It's so cold. And the wind picks up and it's freezing. So I was like, I'm never going to go back there. And then 2 years later, I think it was, my now brother-in-law is like, I'm going to propose to your sister in Chicago. And I was like, oh great. No. And we all had to kind of go for this. And I'm like, it is so cold. I said I would never do this again, but there I was.
Wow.
And that's me. Yeah, it was freezing. It wasn't great.
I can't imagine that because I was there in April covering the Marlins series in Wrigley, and it was 30, but it was miserable. It is miserable.
That's starting to get nice. Like they even told us, like, yeah, the locals that live here just flee town this time of year. And I'm like, where do they go? Like I wish I could just leave when it got unpleasant, but
yeah, they come here.
Have you guys been to a lot of parks or no?
I've been to the Trop and Citizens Bank and Citi Field.
Yeah, coverage wise, I've started to do a lot at San Diego, Chavez Ravine in LA. I did Philadelphia for the Wild Card Series, New City Fields, and they're all very, very nice. And I just to get back to it, every single one of those ballparks has a much better baseball experience than loanDepot Park. Unfortunately, it stinks, but it's just and I don't know if you agree, but it's the case. I guess
People Park.
I wanna
There's
ask
rooster races, which I'm sure you love.
I hate it.
Yeah. I need to. Billy, did he hear about the protests that went on at the
I
ballpark?
did see the protest. Isaac, did you break that story?
Not exactly a story. I went out because I heard rumors that this was going to happen. Kevin helped me out with that. And I went out. I was expecting at least 15, 20 people. There's about
3 or 4, right?
There was about 5 total. It was some signs that didn't make a lot of sense, but they were passionate. One of them is a doctor, and he orchestrated the whole thing, and he was interviewed. And so I just sort of, I guess I was the first to report that there was a protest going on.
Yeah. So are they going to come back or what?
I don't know.
They got a whole they got the permit to do it and everything. They went to the
really?
Yeah,
they went all in.
Yeah, because I asked, and from what I understood, they did this by the book. They did not go on the West Plaza. They did not buy tickets and do it inside the stadium. They called the police. They told the police what they're going to do. They got the permit, like Kevin said, and they stood like 2 football fields away from the West Plaza entrance, behind that little blockade, with these signs that include, Ozuna and Sandy and Pablo and Arraez when they traded for each other. It just makes no sense. But yeah, I wasn't able to make a story out of it because they didn't speak English, and I guess I could have tried to, but it was a lot.
You said you spoke perfect Spanish minutes ago.
Yeah, man. It was difficult.
It was difficult to make a story, and honestly, a lot of what they said made no sense. So, but it was nice to see people show passion for a team.
Yeah, you gotta love their passion.
We've seen this movie a lot of times, and it is good to see some baseball protesting going out there.
Yeah, that's like the one thing that kind of stood out is like, the fact that they went out there and did it, even if it's 5 people, they know what's going on. They know how they feel. And frankly, they're the only ones who decided to go out there and do it. No one else did it. I wouldn't be surprised if more people do it next time, but definitely should be interesting.
Is that something you would do, Billy, if you felt passionately enough?
I was part of one protest. And I realized it wasn't for me, and it wasn't Marlins related. It was really because Ron McGill asked us to go, and it was about a water park at the zoo. So I decided to show up to that. But I showed up. There's like a window of like 4 hours. I think they said it was like 10 to 2. No, they said it was like 10 to 3. I showed up at like 1 because I was doing something that was not protesting a water park in the morning. And truth be told, I like a good water park. But, he asked us to do it. So I decided to show up. And I got there very late, and by the time I got there, they had like made their way out to the street, and they were like holding signs, and I guess they didn't want the water park because there was like bats or something that were like living in that area. I don't know, but like, it was just a bunch of people holding signs. Yeah, at the zoo. They were gonna build a water park by the zoo, but it was like a sanctuary for bats, or I don't know. So by the time I got there, they were like holding signs, and there was cars honking, and I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not someone that's going to be screaming at cars about bats. So I got back in my car and I left.
Wow.
So,
I didn't know about water parks, really? I didn't.
Well, because there was something, they were going to build a water park like in the parking lot of Zoo Miami, but then like that was, I don't know, like 10 years ago or something. And since then they found out that like it was like some habitat for natural animals, and if they did that, they'd be displayed. I don't know, man. But there's no water park now, thanks to me. So you're welcome, bats.
Well, look
or
at that.
caterpillars or whatever I protected.
All right.
Are you guys protesters? I don't see you out there protesting.
No.
Nope.
Busy at the Soho House.
Yeah.
He would protest to keep the Soho House.
Absolutely.
What would be the thing that would get you passionate enough to like go out and be like, this just will not stand?
If baseball were moving out of Miami, if Major League Baseball, if it failed, and it's not, I can't because I'm a member of the media, but like if they said, hey, we're moving the team to Portland or Las Vegas, they would hear from me. They most definitely would. Yeah, I think that's the only. I think that's the only thing.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big.
If they moved FIU football to Division III, you'd probably be protesting.
I would be pissed. Yeah. I would be pissed, but honestly, that program's pretty close to that standard. So,
gosh, shots fired left and right today.
Well, one of the last things I have for you, Billy, I'm just curious. Obviously, you guys touch on the Marlins a little bit on the Dan Le Batard Show. I'm an avid listener, especially when David Sampson is on. I'm a massive David Sampson fan. I think he's great. But what's the consensus around the team when the team is this bad right now? What does everyone think about what's going on at loanDepot Park in 2024?
They mainly don't. I feel like I'm the only one. Like I'll talk about it, with Ethan and other people in the office, but on air, no one will pretty much listen to me talk about the Marlins, which is,
not even
not
Jeremy.
The best. Jeremy does talk too, but here's the thing, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, and I'm gonna ultimately be wrong about this, which is fine, but I think that there's an asterisk as to why I'm wrong. The Marlins, prior to trading Arraez and what's to come, apparently, were not the worst team in baseball. Like they were gonna be bad, but they were not White Sox bad. Like they were underperforming, and the bullpen blew a bunch of games. They were gonna be probably I would say close to 70 win team. I think. You don't think?
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Let me rephrase some of this a little bit because I need Isaac's approval. They were going to be not a playoff team, not the worst team in baseball. Then they also were getting a barrage of injuries to the starting pitching, which definitely did not help. And then they were just underperforming dramatically. But they got off to a terrible start. The 0-11 or whatever was the start was not indicative of the team that they were.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree. At the time of the trade, the team was 9-25.
Well, yes, things had started to go south.
They were 16 games under. I think 70 wins is extremely optimistic, and that's not a problem. I agree. Maybe they do win 70 games, right? So they do. The worst place you can be is be in the middle. You either want to be tanking the way they are now, or you want to be all in. And to be in the middle and have these assets, these expiring assets, and finish with 70 wins when you know you're not going to make the playoffs, what's the point? That is the worst place to be, is in the middle. So I don't fault them for, punting, right?
But do you trust their drafting? There's no Paul Skeens,
totally different...
which, by the way, Paul Skeens is going to blow out his arm. But you're not asking me about him, so we don't need to talk about him. He's going to blow out that arm.
Multiple of our staffers have said that, or coworkers.
Dial it back a notch, Paul. Okay, one start, and you already have 9 of the fastest pitches thrown by a starter this season. Relax. You want to have a long career. Stop throwing it so hard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with what you said. I don't think anyone saw the Marlins being this bad. They had some good pieces. Obviously, the pitching.
I didn't think they were going to lose 100 games. Now they will.
I did not think.
I think they will lose 100 games now.
The thing is, it's that I think they were on their way to lose 94, 93 games with Arraez. They were obviously going to trade him at the deadline. I think that's what you mean, not to trade him in May 3rd. You meant if they had waited until July, you think they end up at about 70 wins?
I think had they played out the entire season with this roster, they would have figured it out. Not trading Arraez, not having a fire sale. Had they played with their opening day roster, had they played out the season, they would have been a 67 to 72 win team ish.
Right. And what good does that do you? You don't get the high draft pick.
Nothing.
Right.
It's just not the worst team in baseball.
Right. Yeah.
Which that's all I'm rooting for now. Just don't be the worst.
And there is an argument to be made that having these guys and being in the middle and being shitty is more beneficial because people will continue to go to the ballpark and watch Tanner Scott close games and watch Arraez lead off. Even though they suck, there will be stars there to put butts in the seat.
Tanner
so that's
Scott
the argument I would have.
Respectfully, the Scott family. Tanner Scott was not driving me to the ballpark to watch the games. Respectfully to the Scotts.
Aside from Arraez,
but neither is Vidal Brujan. So
there we go.
Yeah,
I guess your point is.
Or Otto Lopez, but I'm sorry, Luzardo is he's one of the guys that is favorable to be traded. But Luzardo pitching in September for a 90 loss team, along with Jazz in center, Arraez at second. Even though whether they lose 90 or win 90, they're more likely to bring in fans than Otto Lopez and Ryan Weathers, unfortunately.
You probably watch. I don't know how much you pay attention to the play-by-play or the color analysts. What do you think of them?
I like them. I mean, they still have a rotating cast. I really like Kyle, even though that's radio.
Yeah, Kyle's great.
Kyle guy.
He's great.
Yeah. But I like our broadcast team. Do you guys not like it? Who do you guys like the least? Tell me. Just us.
I can't. I would just say that I miss Rich and Tommy very, very much. I like that Tommy still does some games, but I very much miss the old crew.
Do you miss Glenn?
I do miss Glenn, even though he is, I don't know.
Glenn's gone pretty crazy on Twitter.
He's
but,
sort of gone
yeah.
off the deep end a little bit here. I thought Glenn was one of the best play-by-play men in all of baseball. I thought that he was fantastic, and I think Kyle has done a great. If we were going to lose Glenn, I thought Kyle's great. I think Kyle does a tremendous job at acknowledging the situation while remaining positive and still not, just saying the way things aren't. He does a great job.
Speaking of Kyle, are you going to go to spring training and get your game in next year? I know that
It got rained out this year. I was supposed to do it and it got rained out. And then Kyle said, "Oh, we'll get you in the regular season." And I feel like, and I haven't been told anything, but I feel like the way this season's going, I'm not going to get the invite for a regular season game. I feel like it's not coming.
It would make
like the perfect storm. Like it would be perfect for this situation. But I also think that maybe, and I could be wrong, they might not want me doing that during a live game in the regular season.
They would.
So
I think because of the season, they would want you now, like distract them a little bit from the product. I would.
Yeah.
I could send Kyle a text if you want to say, "Hey, are you ever going to get Billy?"
You don't have to peer pressure him. It's okay. I'm happy to make a mess of things whenever they'd like to have me. We'll see. I even had a shirt for spring training this year that I was going to wear, which is ridiculous because it's a radio broadcast, so no one would have seen the shirt. But like I was given for Christmas, I think, someone in my family gave me a Marlins Hawaiian shirt, and I'm like, where am I going to wear this? And I thought immediately, spring training, that's where I'm going to wear this. But then it didn't happen because of the rain.
Yeah,
did you end up going up there to Jupiter? Did you end up going
What'd
up
you
there?
say?
Did you end up going?
I didn't because I got tipped off and I felt bad because I was talking to you throughout that day, but I was tipped off very early that game was not going to happen. So the game was supposed to happen at 6 and I found out at like 10:30 and I was told that they were going to announce it like around noon, but I don't think they announced it until like 4. And I think, and I could be wrong, and I don't know if I should be saying any of this, but I think the reason that it wasn't announced is because I'm pretty sure that was the same day as the Yuri Perez news came out that he was going to be coming back. So I think, and I could be wrong, that while it was known that game wasn't going to happen, they still wanted the coverage of that announcement. So the media still went up there for that game. But
I was there.
Yeah. Big day, huh? Exciting
Peter Bendick spoke that day. That was the day they announced the Yuri Tommy John, I think. And
they said that he was coming back. I thought they announced it during the season.
They announced that there was.
Yes, you're right. Yep. Yeah,
it
was the Yuri thing. We spoke to Yuri, Skip. That was the day I think we found out Sixto made the opening day roster. And
oh my gosh!
And Ben
drafted him in fantasy, thinking this is going to be a steal. It didn't work out.
You saw him in fantasy?
Yeah, well, on like the 22nd round or something. Okay. I took a flyer on him, thinking whatever, maybe he gets a spot start here. And I was so excited because obviously he never pitched in front of like a major league crowd because he did his thing in 2020. So then he came in opening day, and I was like one of the 4 people giving him a standing ovation when he came into the game. And first batter gives up a home run.
Second pitch, boom. Yeah. O'Neal Cruz.
It's so bad.
Yeah, they gave him a high leverage spot. The 7th inning of a 1-2 run game, whatever it was. O'Neal Cruz, second pitch.
It was his only bad pitch. He had a good outing aside from that, but
he retired the side in order after that. But he gave you 4 innings of shutout ball on Monday.
Yeah, he's been off my team since. He was off my team, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to give him another shot. And he gave up like 6 runs, and I'm like, okay, this experiment's done. The Billy Gil team.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think that'll be the highlight of the show that Billy Gil drafted Sixto Sanchez in fantasy baseball. I dropped him and then picked him up again because I'm like, maybe. I don't know.
It's okay.
Well, because he had a spot. He had a spot start, right? So I picked him up, I think, for the spot start, and it didn't go well.
That may have been the Atlanta one.
We thought it was going to be a spot start, but they continue to roll him out there.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up here, Billy. Thank you so much for hopping on. We had a great time, and we'll wrap it up here. From Isaac, Billy, myself. We'll see you guys probably 2 weeks. Peace out and go fish.